But Ms. Noble has asked that we hold that. She can't be at the meeting on Wednesday, so we'll let it follow that course. Many questions on the communications. All right, we'll have two first reads to sound and bring in. Taking us to this ordinances for second read. The first one is 22-01793. This is construction of green stormwater for Proctor Creek Watershed Project. Who from the department will be presenting this?
Good afternoon. This is Kathy Martin, Department of Watershed Management. Councilmember Juan, we'll have our DC of OWP do the presentation.
Okay, very good. If this one looks pretty straightforward, any questions or requests for information from my colleagues on the call? Okay, next up is 22-01794. This is acquisition of some property interest for Westlake Avenue Bridge Replacement Project. Who from the administration will be speaking to this? This is an ADOT project.
Jessica Fulton, ATLDOT. I'll be speaking to it.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Fulton. All right, any questions or requests from my colleagues on that? All right, 22-01795. This is the bond paper, the anticipations and appropriations. CFO Bala, will you be speaking to this? Is he on here, or will someone else from finance?
Hi, so we're gonna hold this for closing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So
he
that
will
will
be here Wednesday in case there are questions.
Okay. Mr. Jones, I see your hand up. Did I miss that earlier? Sorry.
No, did we include the Beltline audit in this in the agenda?
Yes, it's under dual referred. I asked this. So yeah, it will.
Okay.
Depending on how transportation handles it on Wednesday morning, we could get it Wednesday afternoon.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for the question. All right. So number 8, 22-01795 will be held per finance's request. All right. Next item, 22-01796. This is Department of Parks and Recreation Employee Incentive Program. Who from the department will be speaking to this?
Good afternoon. This is Carmen Anderson from Parks and Recreation. Doug Voss will be speaking on this one.
Okay. I did have a question on this one for whoever presents, and that is, I haven't looked at the legislation. I don't know if there is an attached list of the specific certifications that qualify for the incentive. I understand this is being modeled after something that was done in, I want to say buildings. And so I just would like a little more clarification or more background information on that on Wednesday if possible.
Okay, and there is an attachment to it.
Okay, perfect. The other thing is I don't know if someone from HR can be on here. I mean, I'm all supportive of these programs, but I don't know if we're going to end up having a conversation about these one-offs, that if there is something, is there something appropriate for each department that we should be considering, and what initiates that? Is it just if the commissioner happens to develop something, or is there something that the HR department should be looking at for all departments? So might be an interesting conversation on Wednesday if someone from HR could be there as well.
Okay, Councilmember Juan, this is April Weeks with HR. I will get this over to Commissioner Smith and make her aware.
Very good.
All
Thanks, Ms. Weeks. I appreciate that. Any other questions or requests on that paper? All right, 22-01797. This is some E911 equipment purchases. Who from the department will be speaking to this? Anyone? Is Mr. Pace on the call? I don't see. Well,
yes, sir. Good afternoon. I'm having a little technical difficulty, so I can't get my camera on.
okay.
I'll follow up and get the appropriate parties to speak to this item.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, Mr. Pace. For those of us that aren't on public safety, this is kind of going to be our chance to have a conversation about the 911 challenges that we're hearing about. So whoever is going to be presenting, hopefully will be prepared to speak to that as well.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you, Mr. Pace. Other questions or requests from my colleagues on the E911 equipment purchase? All right, number 11, 22-01799, Councilmember Boone's paper. This is for the T-SPLOS proceeds. Who will be speaking to this, from finance, I'm guessing?
Yes, so this will be CFO Bala. We're gonna substitute this with the funding information.
I have a question about this one. Is this one for the entire 5 years of the T-Splosh um, and it's setting a $60 million, I'm assuming that's an annual cap, for receipts?
Right, so a couple things with the substitute, we gotta make sure that we have the projects, and we also had to establish the fund. Because we had the previous T-Splosh, so now
Yep.
that this is a new allocation, we're
Yep.
making sure that we have a new fund to make sure we account for the revenues that we have
Yep.
that are coming in and all the different projects.
Okay.
Right.
Just, I want to have a conversation. the not to exceed amount, I just want to make sure that's
Okay.
appropriately set, given what our projections are, over the next 5 years. Because I believe we're setting it for the 5 years. Is that correct on this?
That should be the case, but we
Yeah.
can definitely follow back up, and I'll make
Right.
sure that we speak with CFO Bala to make sure he's prepared to address some of the questions that you have.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Other questions or
Thank you.
requests on that paper? All right, 22-01801, Councilmember Winston's paper. This is a ATL Cloud implementation and post-implementation support services with Deloitte Consulting. Questions or, well, first of all, who from the department will be presenting this one?
Jerry Deloach.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. You're on.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I didn't see you on there, but yes, go ahead.
No, I'll be speaking to the paper.
Mr.
and,
Deloach is up.
Provide a brief
Okay.
summary.
All right. Questions or requests from my colleagues on this paper? All right, takes us to resolutions. First one is 22-R4523. This is the replacement resolution for the ordinance that was in our paper last cycle that just essentially establishes the individual council discretionary or district discretionary funds on the bonds. I think we talked about this being somewhat redundant, that y'all doing it anyway, but the paper will be before us on Wednesday. Other questions or requests from my colleagues on that? Okay, 22-R4582. This is task order for Kissburg Parker Fry for ADA path at Cascade Spring Nature Reserve. Who will be presenting this paper?
Dean will be speaking to that, Councilmember Warren.
Is that Mr. Santillo? Will you be the one?
Yes.
Okay. And I understand we have a substitute that's going to come in that corrects the account number. Other questions or requests for this paper? Okay, 22-R4583, task order for FH Passion SN Nielsen and Associates for HVAC upgrades. Who from the department will be speaking to this?
That'll be me as well, Councilmember.
Thank you. Questions or requests on that one? All right, seeing none. Item 16, 22-R4584. This is another task order, Rubio and Sons for renovations at 651 14th Street. Who will be speaking to this? Is this Deem or Watershed?
I believe it would be Watershed, but I'll be on the backup on that one.
Okay. Okay. Questions or requests for that paper?
Excuse me, this is Kathy Martin again. Councilmember Juan, which paper was that you thought it was going to be Watershed?
It's item 16, 22-R4584, Rubio and Sons for some renovations at the 14th Street Building Department.
I don't have any information that it would be Watershed, but we can talk offline.
That's
Okay.
fine. We'll be able to speak to it.
Okay. No, they're doing some renovations you're not aware of? No, I'm just kidding. All right, 22-R4585. Hopefully Watershed does know about this paper. It's the refunds. Is this one going to be ready to go, or are we going to continue? Are we going to hold this?
I do have a substitute pending. It'll be ready.
Okay, and I'm sorry, who was that?
Kathy Martin, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Watershed Management.
And I will speak to that. I'm Jonathan
you.
Williams.
Okay. Jonathan. Great, thank you.
Sure.
All right, item number 18, 22-R4586, Second Amendment, purchasing co-op purchasing agreement for AT&T Mobility to add police and fire. Questions? First of all, who will be speaking to this?
This will be Tamika Neely Dudley with AIM.
Yes.
Great. Questions or requests for this one? All right. Okay, so that takes us to dual referreds. We do have, I think, 3 new ones this cycle. The first one is the Beltline Special Service District report. So depending on how transportation addresses that in the morning before our meeting, we could have it before us. Questions on this one or requests? Okay, item number 2022-01798. This is the Councilmember Faroki's paper to extend the deadline for the preliminary plan for the discretionary parts of the Moving Atlanta Forward bond. We'll see what transportation does with this as well on Wednesday morning. Questions or comments on that one? All right, 22-R4522, Councilmember Faroki. This is an operator for the Center for Diversion Services. This will be before Public Safety, I guess this afternoon. So we'll see what they do with that, and it could come to us.
Mr. Chair, I believe this item is going to be held in Public Safety today.
Okay. Great, thank you, Mr. Pace. And then finally, 22-R4531, Councilmember Hillis's paper. This looks like it's a revisit of the impact fees or an update or refresh. Is that correct, Mr. Pace? Are you aware of this one? And obviously, this is going to go to CDHS tomorrow, but
yeah, I will confirm with Councilmember Faroki about this.
Oh, it's Hillis. This one's Hillis.
Hillis, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll actually meet with him after this meeting.
Okay. All right. And yeah, I'm just reading the caption. It looks like it's an update of the impact fees themselves, but we'll find out when they tackle it. Okay, I think the rest.
He has been, and I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Mr. Chair. I know that he has been meeting with the Department of City Planning over the course of the summer, and this was something that he was directly requesting that the Departments of Finance and City Planning to do. I don't believe the analysis is due back until the end of next year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
okay. All right. Well, we shall see. All right. The rest of the dual referreds are a continuation from last cycle. So we'll see if there's any movement on any of those before Wednesday. And so that takes us to papers held. There is one paper coming off. It's item number 38. This is 22-01772, Councilmember Winston's paper to declare some surplus real property. I believe it was Watershed's property. Commissioner Browning, I have you written down as the person speaking to this. Is that correct?
This is Kathy Martin again.
It will be Marcus Butts, our manager of land and acquisition, will be speaking to it for us.
Okay, and it's ready to go. Is that correct?
Yes, it's ready to go.
Okay. Questions or requests for information from colleagues on that one?
Shook with a question.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Shook.
So about impact fees, what the council passed last term regarding impact fees and the study and the input from the advisory committee was styled as a first cut with a lot of other outstanding issues that were to be taken up later. And so I'm just curious as to whether this administration, remembers that and what their plans are to sort of re-engage on the unfinished business.
Mr. Pace, is this a question you want to field or?
I think this is something that we'll sit down with the pertinent chairs of the committees to address. I know there are various impact fees. There has not been much discussion on looking at that. I know the council addressed it a couple years back, but something that we're very open to, having a discussion about. I think there is some, as I understand it, some appetite from the council at looking at those fees. Certain members, but it's something that we can definitely meet and begin to discuss.
Yeah, as I recall, there were also some, kind of programmatic questions that sort of got left. The problem here, of course, is that all the people who worked on this in planning are no longer here. So there's not all that's been sort of cut off.
I'll definitely broach it to the appropriate parties and see if we can begin having that discussion.
Thank you.
But that sparks something. Ms. Lindo, it would be helpful for those of us that were not here the last administration, last term, to get if this does move, actually, even if we get an indication that Councilmember Hillis wants to move it forward this cycle, then let's get some backup information, background information on the work that Councilmember Shook just referenced, in terms of, any legislation or any work or any outstanding kind of homework assignments that were there before we were going to go forward on it, because that would be helpful to me. Ms. Shook, thanks for that background. I didn't realize that had happened, so that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm happy. And if kind of it was kind of an exhausting conversation last time, to be honest. It was protracted. I'll be happy to introduce one-off pieces of legislation, if that would be easier, or when it appears that we're not, really going to take this up anytime soon.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Pace's camera starts working just in time. Okay, any other papers coming off of hell that I aside from that one? Okay, very good. All right, have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see everybody Wednesday at 1:30. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.